This is my informative speech on demonstration of how to pitch in baseball. And I apologize for the glare on my glasses. Did you know that the first recorded game of baseball was played on June 19th, 1846? For reference, the Civil War was still about 15 years away, and at the time there were only 28 states in the continental United States. Baseball has been called America's pastime for well over a century, and a big part of the sport is pitching. Pitchers throw balls to the opposing team that they then try to hit, score runs, and win the game. Pitchers throw the ball in a variety of ways, called pitches, to try to confuse the batters and prevent them from scoring runs. Pitches have changed dramatically since the first baseball game, and my hope is to demonstrate to you how a certain number of pitches are thrown. I have been a fan of baseball my entire life and played it frequently throughout most of my childhood. Though I no longer play the sport myself, I stay as up to date as possible on how pitches are changing by reading books, watching the game, checking statistics, and researching. To some of you, this topic might not seem to matter very much, and I understand that. However, have you at any time in your life looked at something so miraculous and it made you wonder how on earth it worked? That's what pitching can be like. The things that some pitchers can do with a baseball to make it move the way it does is incredible, and I'm here to demonstrate a little bit of how that's done. I plan to show you how baseballs are gripped to make them move a certain way. I will also inform you of the muscles and bodily movements required to execute a successful pitch. Together, we'll learn some of the secrets behind the seemingly mystical art of pitching. We will start by looking at different pitch grips. And for the purposes of this presentation, I have a baseball here that I will be using to hopefully demonstrate and provide some illustration into the words that I'm about to tell you. So in order to fool batters, pitchers throw a variety of pitches. There really are numerous pitches, and players seem to be coming up with new ones every year. Each pitch requires a different grip on the ball, and some require different arm and wrist movements to execute them successfully. The pitch that is most commonly thrown and taught to pitchers from a young age is the fastball. There are actually two common versions of the fastball, a four-seam and a two-seam. To grip the four-seam fastball, place your index and middle fingertips directly on the perpendicular seam of the ball. Next, place your thumb directly beneath the baseball, and the other fingers can just rest off to the side. Ideally, your thumb should rest in the center of the horseshoe seam. You see it kind of looks like a horseshoe there, of the ball. This pitch is generally taught to children when they begin pitching. It doesn't require a difficult grip or extraneous hand or arm movements to throw. So this is a four-seam fastball. A two-seam fastball grip requires placing the index and middle fingers on the narrow seams of the ball, like so. This pitch is generally gripped a little bit harder in the hand so that when it is released, the ball moves more on the way to home plate. There's more of a horizontal movement which can confuse the hitters and make the pitch difficult for them to hit. Another common pitch thrown that is generally learned a little bit later in life is the curveball. For this grip, your middle finger should be placed on the bottom seam of the ball with the index finger right up against it, as you can see there. Your thumb is then placed on the back seam. When the pitch is thrown, the wrist is thrown at more of a side angle, and the wrist twists, so the two fingers rotate down and the thumb rotates up. So the pitch generally ends like that. And as it comes out of the hand, it creates a spinning motion that confuses the batters on the way to the plate. The final pitch I would like to show you is known as the changeup. To throw an effective three-finger changeup, center your ring, middle, and index fingers on top of the baseball. Your thumb and pinky finger should be placed on the smooth leather directly underneath the baseball. So really all five fingers are cradling it. This pitch often fools batters because it has the appearance of a fastball when it is released. but the amount of fingers and the pressure you put on the ball when it is released causes a sort of backspin, which slows it down at the last second, and this keeps hitters off balance, making the pitch difficult to hit. Now that we have some basic pitch grips down, we are going to look at some of the arm angles used to throw these pitches. Pitchers can choose to throw from a variety of arm angles. Everyone finds success their own way. Arm angles affect the wrist movements that in turn affect the success of a chosen pitch. An overhand pitch is the most commonly used pitching form. An overhand pitch is a pitch thrown from directly above the pitcher's shoulder, like so, just kind of straight over the head. Another common pitching form is the sidearm delivery. The pitcher's arm comes from the side of the body perpendicular to the trunk. The least common of all pitching arm styles is known as the submarine pitch. A submarine pitch is one in which the ball is released often just before the ground, but not completely underhanded. So it's not like a softball pitch necessarily, but more at a 45-degree angle to the ground. With the torso bent at a right angle and shoulders tilted so severely that they rotate around a nearly horizontal axis. I will try to include some pictures of this rather than demonstrating it myself because it is a difficult form. Due to the many moving parts of the body in this pitching motion, coaches generally refrain from teaching this to players unless they feel that they would excel with it. And with a better understanding of types of pitches and the arm angles they can be thrown from, we will look at the overall delivery of a pitcher. Once again, every pitcher is different, but I want to give you a general idea of what a pitcher's delivery looks like when he throws a pitch. For this example, we will stick with the more common overhand delivery, that first one I mentioned. The phases of an overhand throw consist of a wind-up, stride, cocking, acceleration, deceleration, and a follow-through phase. I have some visual aids that I want to show you to help you understand what each phase of the delivery looks like. Unfortunately, I don't have those right now, but I will have those for the actual presentation. The pitching movement requires just about every part of the body. Some muscles and joints are used more than others, but all need to work well to execute a successful pitch. Generally, most of the power behind a pitch actually comes from the legs as they push off the pitcher's mound towards home plate. The arm is just sort of an extension of the power that travels up the body, out the arm, and then releases the pitch towards the batter. A quote that I found in a medical journal discussing the mechanics of pitching states, "The pitching motion should not be thought of as an upper extremity action, rather an integrated motion of the entire body that culminates with rapid motion of the upper extremity, the arm movement." We have now learned the basics of pitching, including the grips of popular pitches, arm angles that they're thrown from, and the mechanics of the delivery. As you've seen and heard, pitching is not as easy as it may appear to some people. It's a lot more than just throwing a ball. Pitchers train years to be able to throw a certain type of pitch successfully, but with the right grip, the right movements, and the right muscles all working together as one, any pitch thrown can be a marvelous sight to see.